AITA for exposing my wife's secret date at our anniversary restaurant. My name is Felton. I'm 39, and until 3 months ago, I honestly thought my marriage was just going through one of those tired adult phases people warn you about. I live in a regular suburban neighborhood about 30 minutes from downtown, work as an operations manager for a commercial HVAC company, and I had been married to Marissa for 9 years. We were the kind of couple people described as solid, mostly because we paid our bills on time, hosted Thanksgiving without anyone crying, and still remembered which side of the bed the other person hated. We were not a fairy tale couple. We had arguments about laundry, the thermostat, and who forgot to buy coffee filters. But I thought we were loyal. That mattered more to me than romance looking perfect on Instagram. Marissa was 37, sharp, funny when she wanted to be, and very good at making people believe she had everything under control. She worked in marketing support for a mid-sized company, and for years her schedule was predictable. She would complain about client edits, come home around 6:30, kick off her heels near the garage door, and ask what we were doing for dinner before she even put her bag down. Then slowly, almost quietly, things changed. It started with her phone. Marissa had never been careless with it, but she had never treated it like a classified file either. Suddenly, it was always face down. If it buzzed while we were watching TV, she reached for it fast. If I walked into the kitchen while she was texting, her thumb would swipe up before I even got close enough to see the screen. The first time I noticed, I made the mistake of joking about it. Secret government work? I asked, opening the fridge. She didn't laugh. She just looked at me like I had accused her of robbing a bank. It's work, Felton. You act like I'm not allowed to have a career. That shut me up because that was not what I meant, and she knew it. But once someone says that, you either defend yourself and sound worse, or you drop it and feel stupid. I dropped it. Then came the late nights. At first, it was one client deadline. Then it was a vendor call. Then a new project. Then a team dinner. Then a last-minute meeting she forgot to mention until 5 minutes before she was supposed to be home. She also started dressing differently. Not wildly. Nothing dramatic enough that I could point at it and say, this is proof. But I knew my wife. A normal Tuesday at the office used to mean black pants, a blouse, and whatever shoes didn't hurt her feet. Now she was leaving the house in fitted dresses, new perfume, earrings I had never seen, and the kind of makeup she used to save for weddings or expensive dinners. One morning, I watched her switch purses in the entryway, moving her wallet and keys into a small cream-colored bag. Big meeting? I asked. She didn't look up. Maybe. What? No reason. You look nice. Thanks, she said, but it came out flat, like I had asked for her password. I tried not to be that guy. I really did. I did not want to become the jealous husband who checked mileage and smelled shirts. I told myself people changed routines. People got busier. People got tired of being married and then found their way back to each other. That was what adults did, right? You gave grace before you made accusations. The problem was that Marissa had already started building a version of me outside our house. I found out during a Sunday dinner at her mother Denise's place. Denise was 62 and the type of woman who could smile while insulting you so neatly that half the table would thank her for it. She loved saying Marissa and I were her proof that marriage still worked. She posted pictures of us every anniversary with captions like, real love, real commitment. That night, Marissa barely spoke to me during dinner. She sat beside her younger sister Lynn and kept her phone in her lap. I asked her twice if she wanted me to grab her more iced tea, and both times she answered like I was interrupting a deposition. After dessert, I was helping Denise carry plates into the kitchen when she sighed and said, Felton, can I say something as someone who loves you both? I already hated where it was going. Sure, I said. A strong marriage requires trust. I looked at her. Okay. Marissa has been under so much pressure at work. She doesn't need to feel smothered at home too. I froze with a stack of plates in my hands. Smothered? Denise gave me that soft, disappointed look she used when she wanted someone to feel smaller. She mentioned you've been questioning her schedule and watching her phone. I asked why she was suddenly working late 4 nights in 1 week. She has a career, Felton. There it was again. The same line, polished and ready. I said, I've never had a problem with her career. Denise patted my arm. Then don't create one. I remember standing in that kitchen hearing everyone laugh in the dining room, while I held plates that were still warm from food I barely tasted. It hit me then that Marissa was not just hiding something. She was preparing witnesses. On the drive home, I asked her about it. So I'm smothering you now? She stared out the passenger window. I didn't say it like that. What did you say? I said you've been tense lately. Because you keep disappearing into work emergencies that don't make sense. She turned toward me then. Do you hear yourself? This is exactly what I mean. I wanted to argue. Instead, I let the rest of the drive go quiet because I could already feel the trap. If I pushed, I was controlling. If I backed off, she got more room to lie. For about 2 weeks, I watched without saying much. I noticed her gym bag stayed in her trunk, even on days she said she went straight from work to a client meeting. I noticed a new keychain hanging from her rearview mirror, a little silver dumbbell charm I had never seen before. I noticed she changed the passcode on her phone from the date we bought our house to 6 random numbers. When I asked why, she said, security update. I almost laughed because people who lie always think boring words make things sound official. The Thursday everything blew up started like any other long day. One of our crews had an issue with a rooftop unit at a small medical office building downtown. Nothing dramatic, just an installation problem that turned into paperwork, phone calls, and one irritated property manager who kept saying, "I'm not trying to be difficult," while being extremely difficult. By the time I finished, the sky was that dark blue color it gets right before the city lights take over. I was sitting in my work truck with an invoice folder on the passenger seat when my phone buzzed. Marissa, still buried at the office. Don't wait up for dinner. I stared at the text for a second. There was no heart. No apology. No how was your day. Just another neat little excuse dropped into my evening like a receipt. I typed, okay, then deleted it. I typed, need me to bring you anything, then deleted that too. Finally, I just put the phone down and pulled out into traffic. The restaurant was on my route out of downtown. It was a polished Italian place with dim lights, white tablecloths, valet parking, and prices that made you choose slower. Marissa and I had gone there for our 7th anniversary. She wore a green dress that night. I remember because I spilled a drop of red wine on my sleeve, and she laughed so hard she had to dab her eyes with the corner of her napkin. That memory was in my head when I passed the valet stand and saw her car. At first, my brain rejected it. There were plenty of cars that color. Plenty of compact SUVs with tinted back windows. But then I saw the small crack in the rear bumper from when she backed into a concrete planter at the grocery store. I saw the parking sticker on the lower left corner of the windshield. I saw the silver dumbbell keychain swinging from the mirror. I pulled into a spot across the street and just sat there. The engine ticked as it cooled. A couple walked past my truck laughing, the woman holding a little takeout bag with a gold logo on it. Inside the restaurant, people were probably ordering wine and pretending Thursday night was already the weekend. I picked up my phone and called Marissa. It rang until voicemail. 30 seconds later, a text appeared. Marissa, can't talk. Still in conference room. I read it once. Then again. That was the moment something inside me went still. Not calm. Not okay. Just still. The kind of still that comes before you stop trying to convince yourself you are imagining things. I got out of the truck. The host looked up when I walked in. He was young, maybe 22, wearing a black shirt and the polite smile of someone who had already dealt with too many people asking for tables without reservations. Good evening. Do you have a reservation? I'm joining someone, I said. Name. I looked past him into the restaurant. Low lighting, wine glasses, small candles on tables, people leaning close over plates of pasta. My eyes moved across the room until I saw her. Back corner booth, half hidden by a tall plant and a wall of wine bottles. Marissa was sitting beside a man I had never seen in my life. Not across from him. Beside him. They were close enough that her knee was angled toward his under the table. He had one arm resting along the back of the booth, his body turned toward her like they were in their own little room. There were 2 wine glasses, a half-empty bottle, and a plate of tiramisu between them. She laughed at something he said, then took a spoonful of dessert and lifted it toward his mouth. There are things your brain tries to soften for you. This was not one of them. My wife was feeding another man dessert at our anniversary restaurant while telling me she was stuck in a conference room. Then I saw her left hand. No ring. My eyes dropped to her purse, open beside her on the booth. In the inside pocket, half covered by lipstick and a folded receipt, was her wedding ring. The host said, "Sir?" I looked back at him. "Are you joining a party?" I nodded. "I think I am." I walked toward the booth before I could talk myself out of it. My legs felt normal, which was strange because everything above my ribs felt like it had been opened with a crowbar. Marissa saw me first. Her smile died so fast it almost looked painful. The man followed her eyes and turned toward me with a confused, slightly annoyed expression. "Can I help you?" he asked. I stopped at the table. "That depends," I said. "Are you the client, the co-worker, or the man my wife forgot to tell she was married?" For 1 second, nobody moved. Then Marissa whispered, "Felton." "Not, I'm sorry. Not, let me explain. Just my name," like I had walked into the wrong room. The man sat up straighter. "I'm sorry, do we know each other?" "Not yet," I said. "But we've apparently been sharing the same woman's schedule." Marissa's face went pale. "Can we talk outside?" "No." "Felton, please." I pulled out the empty chair at the end of their table and sat down. The man blinked at me. Marissa looked around, already checking who might be watching. A woman at the next table suddenly became very interested in her menu. A waiter approached with the careful expression of a man entering a room where a vase had already been thrown, even if nothing had physically happened yet. "Is everything all right here?" he asked. I nodded. "Could you bring the check, please? And put whatever they ordered on separate checks. I'm not paying for my wife's date." Marissa hissed, "You're making a scene." I looked at her bare left hand resting on the white tablecloth. "You weren't embarrassed when you took your ring off," I said. "Don't get shy now." Her eyes flashed. "It's not what you think." That line almost did me in. Not because it was convincing, but because it was so insulting. There was wine on the table, dessert between them, her ring in her purse, and another man staring at me like I was the intruder. "What part am I misunderstanding?" I asked. "The conference room? The tiramisu? Or the part where you hid your wedding ring like it was a parking ticket?" The man looked at Marissa. "Wedding ring." She turned toward him quickly. "Nolan, don't." So now I had a name. Nolan. He looked about 34, gym fit, clean haircut, nice watch. The kind of guy who probably said things like, "I'm all about honesty," on a first date. His confidence was starting to crack at the edges. He looked back at me. "She told me you two were separated." I laughed once, but there was no humor in it. "That's interesting," I said. "We renewed our insurance together last week." Nolan's eyes shifted to Marissa. "She said you were basically done," he said. "She said you were only living in the same house until finances got sorted." Marissa closed her eyes for half a second. And that was the twist that turned the knife. She had not just been lying to me. She had built a whole other life where I was already an ex-husband, a controlling leftover, some obstacle she was gracefully trying to escape. I leaned back in the chair and looked at her. "So at home I'm paranoid," I said. "Here I'm separated. Busy woman." "Felton, stop," she whispered. "No, I'm done stopping." My hands were shaking under the table, so I put them on top where I could see them. I knew if I yelled the way I wanted to, she would use that. She would point to the volume instead of the betrayal. She would tell everyone I stormed in like a lunatic and scared her. So I pulled out my phone. Marissa's eyes widened. "What are you doing?" "Correcting the record. Don't you dare involve my family." That almost made me smile. "You involved them when you told them I was controlling." I tapped Denise's contact and put the call on speaker. Marissa reached across the table. "Felton, no." I moved the phone out of her reach. Denise answered on the third ring, warm and cheerful. "Hi, Felton. Everything okay?" "No," I said. "Marissa told me she was working late. I'm looking at her right now having dinner with another man at Bella Vita." The silence on the other end was immediate. Marissa covered her face with one hand. "Mom, don't listen to this." Denise's voice changed. "Marissa?" "She's here," I said. "So is the man she told she was separated from me." Nolan muttered, "Oh my God." Denise said, "Felton, maybe you should step outside and talk privately." I looked right at Marissa. "That's what everyone keeps asking me to do. Step outside. Calm down. Trust her. Stop asking questions." "No, Denise. I'm done being quiet so she can look innocent." Marissa snapped, "You're humiliating me." I felt something inside me harden. "No," I said. "I found you like this. There's a difference." I ended the call before Denise could turn it into a lecture. Then I took pictures. Not dramatic ones, not close-ups of faces like some tabloid creep. Just enough. The table with the wine and dessert. Marissa's bare hand. The open purse with her ring visible in the pocket. The check folder when the waiter placed it near the edge of the table. Marissa tried to cover the purse. "Move your hand," I said quietly. "Felton, you wanted a private date," I said. You don't get a private lie. The waiter looked like he wanted to evaporate. I can give you all a few more minutes. No need, I said. He left the check and walked away fast. I opened the folder. And there it was. Our shared credit card. The one Marissa had insisted was only for household expenses, groceries, gas, emergencies, and the occasional dinner we both agreed on. I knew the last 4 digits because I paid that bill every month. I picked up the card and held it between 2 fingers. You used our card? I asked. For him. Marissa looked at the table. Nolan's face changed completely. Whatever defense he had left drained out of him. She paid, he asked. Marissa said, it's not like that. I looked at Nolan. Buddy, I don't know what she told you, but apparently I helped buy your wine. He pushed back from the booth as if the table had burned him. You told me he was basically your ex, Nolan said. Congratulations, I said. That makes 2 of us learning things tonight. Marissa reached for Nolan's arm. Please, don't leave. Let me explain. He pulled away. You said you were separated. You said he knew. He does this, she said, pointing at me now. He twists everything. I stared at her. Even caught at a table with another man, with her ring in her purse and our card in the check folder. She was still reaching for the same story. Felton the problem. Felton, the unstable husband. Felton the reason she had to lie. That was when I opened the family group chats. There were 2. One with my side, where my older brother Trey usually sent blunt one-word replies to everything. One with Marissa's side, where Denise posted holiday reminders and pictures of desserts like she was running a church bulletin. I sent the same photos to both chats. Then I typed one sentence. Since everyone kept telling me I was paranoid, here's what her overtime looks like. I hit send. Marissa lunged for my phone. I stood up before she could grab it. Are you insane? She said. No, I said. That was the problem. You needed me to think I was. My phone started buzzing almost immediately. Denise, Felton, take this down right now. Trey, leave now. Freeze the card. Come to my place. My mother, call me when you're safe. Lynn, Mom, stop. Marissa told me there was a guy from the gym. I stared at Lynn's text. A guy from the gym. I looked at Marissa. The gym. She went still. Nolan looked between us. We met through the fitness app, he said slowly. The one connected to the gym challenges. There it was. Not a coworker. Not a client. Not some business dinner that crossed a line. A man she met through a fitness app while selling him a story about her sad separated life and selling me a story about conference rooms. My phone buzzed again. Trey, stop talking. Get documents. Do not sleep there tonight. For once, I listened to my brother immediately. Nolan tossed cash on the table, more than enough for his part, and stood up. Marissa's voice cracked. Nolan, wait. He shook his head. I didn't sign up for this. Then he walked out, not dramatically, not with some big speech. He just left her sitting there with 2 wine glasses, half a plate of tiramisu, and the husband she had tried to erase. Marissa looked at me then, and for the first time all night, she looked scared. Felton, she said. Please, let's go home and talk. The word home landed wrong, like she had no idea what she had just burned down. I took off my wedding ring. It took more effort than I expected. I had worn it for 9 years, and it stuck for a second at the knuckle. When it finally slid free, my hand felt naked and cold. I placed it beside her wine glass on the white tablecloth. Enjoy dessert, I said. You just lost your husband. Then I walked out. Nobody clapped. Nobody cheered. Real life does not wrap your worst night in applause. People looked away too late. The host avoided eye contact. Outside, the air felt colder than it should have. I made it to my truck, shut the door, and then I fell apart for about 2 minutes. Not loudly, just enough that my hands shook so hard I couldn't get the key into the ignition. I sat there breathing through my teeth, staring at the restaurant doors, waiting for Marissa to come running out with an explanation that could somehow undo what I saw. She didn't. My phone rang. Trey. I answered, but I could not say anything right away. He didn't waste time. Where are you? Outside the restaurant. Good. Listen to me. Do not go home angry and start screaming. Do not let her get there first and clean things up. Go get your important documents, change passwords, freeze that card, and come to my place. You can feel things later. That sounded harsh, but it was exactly what I needed. I don't know what to do, I said. Yes, you do, Trey said. You just don't want this to be your life. But it is tonight. Move. So I moved. I drove home with Marissa calling every few minutes. I let every call go to voicemail. Then the text started. Marissa, you had no right to do that. Marissa, you embarrassed me in front of everyone. Marissa, we need to talk before this gets worse. Marissa, my mom is freaking out. Please answer. Not once did she write, I'm sorry I cheated. Not once did she ask if I was okay. When I got home, the house looked painfully normal. The porch light was on. The mail was still on the entry table. Her slippers were crooked by the couch. A coffee mug from that morning sat in the sink with lipstick on the rim. For the first time in months, I stopped asking what she was doing and started asking what I needed to protect. I took our tax returns, insurance paperwork, mortgage documents, vehicle titles, and the small fireproof box where we kept birth certificates, social security cards, and old savings bonds from my grandfather. I changed the passwords on our bank accounts, my email, the home security cameras, and the phone plan access. I froze the shared credit card while standing at the kitchen island, staring at a bowl of apples Marissa had bought 2 days before like we were still a normal married couple. The card company asked if I suspected fraud. I almost said yes. Instead I said, unauthorized personal use, because somehow that felt more accurate and more humiliating. Then I downloaded the statements. That was when the second wave hit. The restaurant was not the first time. There were charges I had noticed before and accepted because Marissa always had an answer. A wine bar on a Tuesday when she said a client meeting ran long. A rideshare charge from downtown after she claimed her coworker dropped her off at the office garage. Valet parking at another restaurant I had never been to. 2 dinners listed as business development. A hotel parking garage charge she had explained as a client presentation in the conference center next door. The betrayal had a paper trail, and apparently I had been paying for it. I saved everything into a folder on a flash drive and emailed copies to a private account Marissa did not know existed. Then I packed a duffel bag with work clothes, jeans, toiletries, and the hoodie I wore when I did yard work because I could not think clearly enough to choose anything else. When I left the house, Marissa still was not home. At Trey's place, he opened the door before I knocked. He had sweatpants on and looked half asleep, but his face changed when he saw me. He did not hug me right away. Trey wasn't that kind of guy unless things were bad. Then he said, "Come here." That was enough. I stood in my brother's entryway and cried into his shoulder like I was 12 years old. He did not say much. He just held the back of my neck and let me break down without making it weird. After a while, he handed me a glass of water and said, "Now show me what you saved." That was Trey. Comfort, then strategy. By midnight, my phone had turned into a war zone. Denise left a voicemail saying I had handled things in a very damaging way, and that marriage problems should not be aired publicly. I listened to that one twice because I could not believe she still thought the public part was the issue. Then Lynn texted me privately. "Lynn, I'm sorry. I should have said something sooner." Me, what did you know? Lynn, not details. She mentioned a guy from the gym app. She said you were emotionally checked out, and she deserved to feel wanted. I told her to end it or be honest. She told me to stay out of her marriage. A minute later, another text came. "Lynn, Mom knew she was unhappy, but not about Nolan. Or at least I don't think she knew." I did not know whether that made me feel better or worse. The next morning, I called out of work for the first time in years without explaining much beyond family emergency. Then I met with a divorce attorney Trey recommended through one of his friends. The attorney's office was small, quiet, and too bright. I sat in a conference room with a manila folder full of printed statements, screenshots, photos, and a timeline I had built at Trey's kitchen table while drinking coffee that tasted like burnt cardboard. The attorney listened without interrupting much. When I finished, she looked through the documents and said, "This does not automatically decide everything. I want you to understand that." "I know," I said. "But you did the right thing saving records before emotions got louder than facts." That sentence stayed with me. Facts. For months, Marissa had made the whole thing about feelings. Her stress, my insecurity, her career, my tone, her privacy, my suspicion. But facts were stubborn. Her car was at the restaurant. Her ring was in her purse. Nolan thought we were separated. Our shared card paid for dates. The charges matched the nights she told me not to wait up. Facts did not care how embarrassed she was. By the end of that week, Marissa had shifted from panic to anger. Her texts got longer. "Marissa, you destroyed my relationship with my family. Marissa, you made sure everyone saw me at my lowest moment. Marissa, I was confused and lonely, and you turned it into a public execution. Marissa, do you even care that I'm hurting too? I read them, but I stopped answering most of them. The one time I did respond, it was after she wrote, "You destroyed my reputation." I typed back, "No, I stopped protecting it." That was it. Denise tried calling me several more times. I finally answered once, mostly because I wanted to stop hearing her ringtone. She sounded tired. "Felton," she said, "I don't approve of what Marissa did." I waited. But I do think sending those pictures was cruel. I looked around Trey's guest room, where my duffel bag sat open on the floor and my entire marriage had been reduced to folders and passwords. "Denise," I said, "your daughter told people I was paranoid so nobody would believe me when the truth came out. I didn't send those pictures to be cruel. I sent them because I knew exactly what she would say if I didn't." Denise was quiet. Then she said, softer, "Lynn told me about the gym guy." "Good," I said. "Then ask Marissa why her sister knew more about my marriage than I did." She did not have an answer. Nolan never contacted me directly, but Lynn told me through the family grapevine that he cut Marissa off the same night. Apparently, he sent her one message saying he did not date married women and did not appreciate being used as evidence in her fantasy separation. I did not feel bad for him exactly, but I did understand the look on his face when he realized the story he had been living inside was fake. Marissa moved in with Denise for a while. That alone was its own punishment, because Denise cared about appearances the way some people care about oxygen. The same woman who used to post anniversary photos of us stopped posting anything for weeks. The divorce process was not clean or satisfying in some movie kind of way. There were forms, meetings, tense emails, and practical arguments about accounts, furniture, and who got stuck dealing with the cable cancellation. Some days I felt strong. Some days I sat in my truck outside work for 10 minutes, because a song came on that reminded me of a road trip Marissa and I took when things were still good. That was the part people do not talk about enough. Finding out someone betrayed you does not erase every good memory. It poisons them slowly. You start replaying vacations, birthdays, lazy Sundays, and wondering where the line was. Was she still mine then? Was she already lying? Was I laughing with someone who was planning her next excuse? I had to stop doing that because it was eating me alive. Eventually, I rented a smaller place. Nothing fancy. One bedroom, decent kitchen, quiet neighbors, and a balcony just big enough for a chair and a pot of basil I kept forgetting to water. The first morning there, I made coffee and drank it without checking anyone's location, without waiting for a text explaining why someone would be late, without wondering if a phone face down meant my life was about to change again. The silence felt strange at first. Then it felt clean. A few months after the restaurant, I ran into Lynn at a grocery store. She looked uncomfortable, like she was not sure whether she was allowed to speak to me. I said hi first. She apologized again. This time, I could tell she meant it. "I should have pushed harder," she said. "Maybe," I said. "But Marissa is the one who owed me honesty." Lynn nodded. "Mom knows that now." I gave a small laugh. "That must be killing her." "It is," Lynn said, and for the first time in months, I smiled without forcing it. "Marissa and I only communicate through attorneys now unless something absolutely requires a direct message. She still thinks I punished her too publicly. Maybe part of me did want the people who called me paranoid to see exactly why I had been asking questions. I won't pretend there was no anger in that group chat message. But I also know this. If I had walked out quietly, she would have rewritten the whole night before I reached my truck. She would have said I followed her. She would have said Nolan was a colleague. She would have said I scared her, embarrassed her, misunderstood her, controlled her. She had already laid the groundwork. So I told the truth while it was still standing right in front of me. I used to think losing my marriage would be the worst thing that could happen. It wasn't. The worst thing was living inside a lie and calling it patience. The worst thing was shrinking my own instincts so someone else could stay comfortable. Now, when I come home, my place is quiet. My phone sits on the counter. My bills are mine. My evenings are boring in a way I used to take for granted. And every once in a while, I think about that white tablecloth, the wine glass, the ring sitting beside it, and Marissa staring at me like she could not believe I had stopped playing my assigned role. That was the night I stopped protecting her lie. It was also the night I started protecting myself. If you liked it, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.